Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 242 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and a two-time author. Our second book is called From Letters to Leaders, Redefining New Member Education and Leveraging Belonging to Eliminate Hazing. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact or sad fact, depending on how you look at it, my parents, they got divorced while I was in college. And I know I'm not the only one who has had this experience. If you're ever in a situation in the future where the relationship just isn't working out and you have children, please take my advice. Don't talk badly about the other parents in order to win over your child. It's going to backfire. I promise you. By engaging in that activity, you're actually talking badly about your child because that other parent is a part of that child. Hopefully, we can prevent future parental alienation with our very important discussion today. Our next guest is Dr. Lynn Steinberg. She works with families, couples, groups, and individuals. She has specialized in working with children and adults abused as children for more than 47 years. Her interest and background grew naturally to embrace the psychological abuse of parent alienation, which she has specialized in for the last 13 years. She offers a 4-day intensive family reunification program for alienated parents and their alienated children. It takes place in Los Angeles. She is an expert witness in parent alienation in the children's court, family court, and criminal court. She can also testify in every state and internationally to the mistreatment of alienated parents and children. Dr. Steinberg is a trained mediator and has mediated for the Superior Court. Welcome to the show, Dr. Lynn Steinberg.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure having you on the show. You have some great information to share. And I know as somebody who has kind of been through this as a child, it really just resonated with me. I said, you know what, this is just a great topic for us to talk about because I know I'm not the only one. There are so many that are out there. But, I'm a little bit curious. I know that it was a while ago. But I'm thinking about your background and your education. You decided on Antioch University in Santa Barbara. So I'm just wondering, why did you choose Antioch of all places?
Well, it offered a clinical psychology program, whereas the regular universities very often offer a research degree in psychology. And I didn't want to do research at that time, although that's what I've ended up doing. And so that's why I went to Antioch. It offered a good clinical program. It was small enough that I got a lot of individual attention from the professors, and the professors were great. I really recommend it if you're living in Santa Barbara.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story. And it's funny how things change. We go into college thinking one thing that we'll never want to do research. And then we get into it and we're like, wow, this is fabulous. How do I do more research on this topic?
Exactly.
And that's okay. Things change over time. And as I mentioned before, you're a parental alienation expert. You hold a doctorate in clinical psychology, and you have licenses for marriage and family child therapy. You're working with families, couples, groups, children, adults for more than 47 years. Now, as I described earlier, I am the child of a high conflict divorce where both parents weaponize the kids to reject the other parents in their lives. And this happened to me while I was in college 25 years ago. It still continues to this day to a certain extent, which is just mind-boggling to me that it has gone on for 25 years. And I have two younger sisters who were greatly impacted in that whole situation. So, you also wrote the book, You're Not Crazy, Overcoming Parent-Child Alienation. I'm just curious if you could explain to our audience what made you specialize in this very specific niche area of parental alienation.
Well, about 12 years ago, I started to see families where I was so confused about what was going on with them. And so I went back to the books and researched and started to find out about parental alienation. And I realized that I was a child, an alienated child. My mother alienated me against my father, who kind of disappeared from the scene, not because he wanted to, but because my mother moved us to a different country and changed our names, and he couldn't find us. And then I realized in doing the research that I was an alienated mom. I was still in a marriage, but I realized what was happening. And I was married for 30 years and I left the marriage as a result of it. And I'm actually still an alienated mom after 12 years. But being able to help people with this problem has been very rewarding for me. And I hope that at some point my daughters come back and I'll be here waiting lovingly for them. But I've learned so much and been able to teach about this dilemma in the courts and classes, webinars, radio shows, everywhere.
Yeah, I hope that you're reunited with your daughters. It's never too late. People think that maybe it's just too late, too much time has passed. But I don't think that at all. I think it's
Oh,
never too late,
no.
right?
I know people who reunited with their children or their parents after being estranged from each other for 20, 30 years.
Mm.
So it's never too late. And my door is always open. As they say, the light is always on.
Yeah. Talk to us. I mean, you're a professional. What is the damage that's done to the parent who is alienated? And also talk about what is the damage that's done to the children in this situation?
Well, as a parent, I think there can be no more devastating problem to deal with than to lose your children through no fault of your own, because alienated parents in general are the ones who are not trying to alienate their children, as opposed to both your parents, which is a very unusual situation, alienating the other parent, because where do you go if they're both alienating? And children tend to align themselves with the alienating parent because it makes their lives easier, not because they want to reject the other parent, but the effect that it has on the alienated parent is devastating. I mean, it ranges from depression, loss, grief, anger, even suicide. There's quite a large number of parents who commit suicide, as do children. Children also commit suicide. They have a lot of anxiety. That, I think, is the primary issue that they deal with, because how do you cope with parents who are fighting to that extent? What do you do? How do you maintain a relationship with both your parents? And this can happen when children are little and they're lost. And so it makes their lives much easier to align with one parent and reject the other parent. And then because there's so many falsehoods inserted into children's minds, they begin to believe that reality. And in part, what I do is I help them with that, what the truth of what happened is, and how they can deal with their parents, how they can, I call it with little kids, I say, it's like being Switzerland. You do not take sides, no matter how much they pressure you to take sides. So truth is the most important issue that needs to take place in dealing with both alienated parents and children who've been alienated.
Yeah. Now, you serve as an expert witness in children's court, family court, civil, and administrative courts. Talk to us a little bit about why they would need an expert witness in these types of cases.
Well, unfortunately, judges and lawyers and various other court personnel don't understand the dynamics of parental alienation. And that's because it's so counterintuitive. So, for example, a child may be with a parent and a therapist is interpreting what is an alignment, a pathological alignment with the parent as a bond. That child is very bonded to that parent. And so they can reject the other parent if they want to. They're just saying what their feelings are. Well, that's a complete misinterpretation of what is actually going on. And the child is merely parroting what the alienating parent is telling them to say. So the whole process is counterintuitive. And in psychology, the therapists don't understand that yet. And certainly if therapists don't understand the dynamics in families, how are the judges going to understand it? How are the lawyers going to understand it? And a lawyer the other day said to me, well, it's a relatively new phenomenon. No, it's not a relatively new phenomenon. This has been documented since 1985 all over the world. It's a worldwide issue. And only now are us experts being able to convince the courts, along with a number of attorneys as well, that there is this horrible, devastating issue called parental alienation. And it's not okay to just remove a child or even allow a child to decide which parent to live with. And of course, it has to be a child that's never had any evidence of abuse. If the child has been abused, that's a whole different story. They may choose to not associate with the abusive parents, but even abused children, in all my work with abused children, choose to have a relationship with the abusive parent. They choose to have a relationship with the extended family and often live with the extended family. In parental alienation, this is the only dynamic that children completely reject a parent and completely rejects that extended family. So say it's the dad who's rejected, they will reject the whole of dad's family, all their cousins, aunts and uncles, grandparents, people that they need in their lives. They need that other parent.
Yeah, you make a great point. I think we often don't really even think about the extended family that are really just innocents in this whole situation. And now an entire family has been cut off. And you think about all of those relationships and other things that could have been beneficial to the child, but now all of that is severed completely through no fault of their own. I mean, it's just, this is what happened. So what methods do you use to treat alienated parents and alienated children in terms of therapy and maybe even self-care?
Well, as far as dealing with the alienated parent and the children in the same room, one of the first issues is that that child has been over-empowered. So they no longer call that parent mom or dad. They refer to them by their first name. They're very rude, hostile, attacking, aggressive. I've had so many kids in my office behind me that have broken things and attacked their parents and vaulted the fence and all kinds of stuff. So the very first job is to get them back under control and re-empower the parent. And I do that by saying, no, you can't call your parent Jim. You have to refer to your parent as dad. Or no, you may not be disrespectful to your mom in here. You have to talk to her, look at her, listen to her. When she talks, you can't talk over her. So that way I'm backing the parent 100% and saying, this is the way you need to treat your parent. I re-empower the parent. That's number one. The second thing is we start redoing memories. So the child usually believes that somehow they were abused. And oftentimes, unfortunately, they believe they were sexually abused. And so I go through those memories with them all in detail. And I just had a case where this young woman told me that her grandfather, who now unfortunately is being indicted for sexual abuse. Hopefully the jury will see the real issue. But I said, well, how did he sexually abuse you? Oh, he just looked like he was going to sexually abuse me. You mean you looked in his eyes and you thought that he was going to sexually abuse you? You know, oh yeah, well, he put his hand on my knee. Well, that's not sexual abuse. You know, and we go through all these false accusations, and the parents, if there is a true accusation, can apologize to the child and they can talk about that. And oftentimes the child is very abusive toward the parents, and they also have to apologize to the parent. So a lot takes place in the room, including learning about memory and how remembering things is very inconsistent. And children will say, well, I was 3 years old and I saw my dad punch my mom. Well, very likely, you know, a 3-year-old will not be remembering that and will most likely be in bed at the time that it happened, you know. So this is a memory that's been inserted by a parent. And I show them videos about how memory is not reliable. And we talk about the Stockholm Syndrome and what happens there, or Jim Jones in Guyana and how he managed to convince a whole group of people to kill themselves and their children. And we talk about parental alienation, what the dynamics are. And I show videos that children can really relate to, adults can too, but they begin to put it together for themselves by the end of the 4-day intervention that I do. You know, there's only so much I can tell them. They have to realize it for themselves. And once they do, the chance of them rejecting that parent again are pretty much zero. I have 100% success rate with my program. And that is only because that child was bonded with that parent in the past. There was that bonding, and it takes a matter of hours to get it back. And the children are so happy to relate to that parent once again and have that parent in their lives.
Wow. Unbelievable. I mean, the stuff that you must have seen in that room. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, I can't even imagine some of the stuff that you've seen. And, you know, I know you have this 4-day program, and the goal is a reunion between the parents and the children. So can you talk a little bit about this 4-day program? Maybe walk us through it. I mean, what happens day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4?
So day 1 is to re-empower the parent, put that parent back in their proper place. Mm-hmm. And also we look over like old videos, something that's very powerful are letters that the children write to their parents. That always brings tears to their eyes. And, you know, we look at photographs where they can see they had a very loving relationship with that parent in the past. So we reestablish that bond between the parent and the children. That's day 1 that goes into day 2. Day 2, I only do this work if I can get a court order from the courts, because it's too difficult to try to do it without being sued by the other parent. So a court order takes care of that. And we talk about the court order, we start getting into false allegations, we get into memories and memories that are inserted. That would be day 2. And that goes into day 3. Day 3, we talk about what parental alienation is, because the children don't know what it is. The parents barely know what it is. So they learn and they talk with one another. And my role at that point is to step back from what's happening between the parent and the children, because that's what's important, is their relationship, not my relationship as the therapist with the children or the parent, because that's where therapists go wrong in these situations. They build relationships with the children over and above between the parent and the children. And that's definitely, reinforcing the alienation and not fixing that relationship. And then the fourth day, I bring in all the extended family. At one time there was about 10 extended family, and we had to have it in my living room to fit everyone in. Yeah.
Wow, unbelievable. What a program. I guess I'm wondering, just thinking about this, why would we even choose an alienator to partner with and then have children? I mean, shouldn't we just all understand the harm that it does to everyone involved when that happens?
Well, unfortunately not. My alienator was my mother, and she badmouthed my father, and I always had a very conflictual relationship with my mother, and she was definitely narcissistic. So who did I choose to marry? I chose a narcissist because I still was in the process of trying to work out a relationship with someone like my mother. And so he did the same thing that my mother did, which was alienate my children against me. And I think now I would not choose another narcissist, but it's been a big learning process. And I think we all are in that situation. Unfortunately, someone who alienates their children has a personality disorder, because why would you not love your child enough to have them have the other parent in their lives? You've
Right.
got to have a personality disorder to do something that horrific to your child and to
Yeah.
another human being, even if you hate them.
Hmm.
So it's a way of trying to work things out without realizing that that's what you're doing.
It's just so sad to me to see that cycle repeat itself through the generations. I mean,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, it's just it's frightening.
Yeah.
What are the laws on parent alienation, and could we change them to prevent this from happening in the future?
Well, right now, there is no law against parental alienation. However, there are laws regarding child abuse. And you know what the DSM is, right? It's a diagnostic manual that we use for the insurance companies. So the DSM diagnoses individual disorders, and there are orders such as emotional abuse, psychological abuse for children.
Mhm.
Um, so that we can get around it, but there's nothing on the books that says parental alienation is against the law and it's considered abuse. There is a law that's been passed in 5 states now about coercive control, which is domestic violence. It's what happens before the physical violence happens. So the partner is very controlling, starts to isolate the other partner. And this applies to parental children that are alienated as well, that they're coercively controlled by a parent. So we've been able in the interim to use that law in these 5 states to prove that these children are being coercively controlled. However, in California, we are heading up, me and someone else are heading up an attempt to get parental alienation on the books and to have mandatory training and reporting, just like you would with regular child abuse. What a term, right?
Mhm.
And we would enforce training, just like there's enforced training for parental alienation for anyone who works with children.
Yeah, that seems like the solution going forward is just get something on the books to
Yeah.
prevent that from happening. So how would we help a parent who has been alienated? What can we do if we see that happening?
Well, the very first thing is to support that parent. It's too easy to just reject that parent. Say, you're in school with your child and you see another parent is being completely rejected by the child. And most people think, oh, that parent did something wrong. And they're treated that way. So being able to just make contact with that parent would be so helpful to that parent. And that's why I called my book, You're Not Crazy, because alienated parents think that they are crazy. You know, how could I have had this loving relationship with my child? I didn't ever abuse my child. And now my child is rejecting me and telling lies about me. And I'm having to fight in court and completely bankrupt myself physically, emotionally, psychologically, in order to see my little child. You know, what happened here? They feel completely crazy. So that's why I named my book, You're Not Crazy, because it tells about what alienation is, what symptoms you would see in children if they're being alienated, and how to deal with them. Because a lot of parents, if they see their children, tend to spoil their children because they don't want their children to reject them. And then the children become over-empowered and frankly spoiled brats, you know, instead of the child that maybe that parent once knew.
Mhm. Well, I'm glad for the work that you're doing. I think, reuniting these families and ensuring that these children have both sets of parents, that they have the extended families back in the picture again. I think all of those things are very healthy. And I hope that, you continue to do that work and bring more families together, because I've seen firsthand some of the damage that it does, just all throughout my own experience,
Yeah,
and with my sisters as well. And I think, what a mistake all of that was, in terms of
devastating.
tearing apart the family. Yeah, it really is. Really
Are
is
you
dangerous.
are you reunited with your parents? May I ask?
Yeah. I mean, I think, it's interesting because ultimately, it took my partner, my now spouse, to realize that, hey, this isn't healthy. You need to have a relationship with both parents. And it took somebody on the outside for
Yes.
me to realize, like, oh, wow, like
Yeah.
I needed somebody from the outside to tell me that it's not normal, and that she wants me to have a relationship with both sets of parents. It was important
Right.
to her, right?
Yes. That
So
often happens where somebody new comes in and they go, wow, this is,
that's what happened. Somebody new came in and said, wow, what is this mess? It's important for me,
yes.
even, somebody on the outside, to say that she wants her partner to have some functioning relationship with both sets of parents. And that's
Sounds
how,
like
the reunion started.
it sounds like you have somebody really good there,
I do.
that you're not marrying one of your parents.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate that way. There's no question
Very
about it. She's
good for
she's
you
a
for
wonderful
choosing
parent, and it
well.
shows.
At least
So
stop the cycle there. Yeah.
yeah, we stopped the cycle there, and so I'm very grateful for that. No question about it. Now I know you're in the LA area, and I get out there quite often to speak on college campuses. So what I'm trying to support some good restaurants that are out there. I know through the pandemic, these restaurants have had a really difficult time staying in business. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering, what's your favorite restaurant in town so I can go check it out?
Well, I have three that I wrote down.
All right.
One is a coffee shop that's down the street from me. They have great coffee, great fresh food. And, students can go there and work on their papers. And it's really a lovely place. It's called Cafe Americano, and that's on Wilshire and Wilson. Um, then there's a wonderful Chinese restaurant if you like Chinese food. It's the
I do.
best I've been to.
Yeah.
And that's called Bao Dim Sum House. And that's on Sweetser and Beverly. And then the last one is Sushi Iyaki, Eyaki, on Highlands and Wilshire. And all three of those places have amazing food, always fresh, very consistent.
I love it. You and I would get along just fine. We have the same taste in food, between, the Asian influences and a good steady stream of coffee, I think
Yeah.
is really all we really need in order to survive.
Well, contact me, Michael, when you're here, and I'll
I,
take you out to one of those places.
yeah, that sounds wonderful. That's absolutely something that we're going to do together. I love it. So, all
Yeah.
right. So, if any of our listeners who are listening to this program and they've been impacted by parental alienation, where can they go to connect with you to prevent this from happening in the future? And where can they go to pick up your book?
Well, they can go on Amazon, or for all the rest of it, you can go on my website. And that is Lynn, Lynn, Steinberg, STEINBERG.com. And there's a contact button on that, and that'll send an email to my office, and we'll contact you back right away.
That's fantastic. This is a really important service that you're offering. I really had no idea that there were people that were specializing in this area. But after we met, I'm just so grateful that you're here because I know what a big problem it is and how many people are impacted. So thank you.
And I'm sorry that you had to go through it. It's so painful.
Yeah. I think about the destruction that, it has caused, within our family, and I just wish it never happened, right?
Yes.
But the fact that it still continues to this day, it's just, it blows my mind. Like, how long are we going to, keep carrying this burden with us? Like, at some point, we have to, move on, and we have to get to healing. But it's so hard to get to healing when the parents are still, talking bad about each other and still trying to insert all of these false narratives, 25 years later when I'm an adult. Like, what is this?
I hope you tell them not to do that.
I do, but it's like, it's so easy for them to go right back into their old habits. You know what I'm saying? So I do. I talk about it all the time, but it just never seems to end. And I don't think it ever will end. That's the wild part to me. It's just like, this is never going to end. This is something I'm going to have to deal with for the rest of my life.
Yes. Yeah. I think that people who alienate are very determined people.
Yeah. Oh, both of them are very determined. You hit the nail on the head. The most determined people that you've ever seen, right? And so sometimes that can be a really good thing, to have a lot of determination in life. That could be a good characteristic, but sometimes it can be awful. So both the biggest strength can also be somebody's biggest weakness, right?
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And to our listening audience, if you like this conversation with Dr. Steinberg, please like it. Please share it with other students that might be going through something similar, or maybe this could be helpful for a parent that who has been alienated, that you can share this interview with them, so that way they know that there are resources out there to help. So thank you so much, Dr. Steinberg. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Michael. I really appreciate you getting the word out there.
You got it. Absolutely. And thank you so much to our listeners. We will see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. We'll see you next time.